Yo, 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 what's going on, people? It's your boy Daryl from the Boxing Lowdown here, and this is episode number 42 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast. And as always, I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, the main man, Mr. Controversial, Laurie from AFTV in the house. What's going on, man? That's Joe Joyce, isn't it? I know that's Joe Joyce.
It's the most important punch in boxing, and it's one that Joe Joyce utilizes to the maximum. It may be slow, you may see it coming, but he keeps it coming with regularity, and it just sickens people, man. It's just thudding, you know what I mean? They say the jab will take you around the world, and that's certainly what Joe Joyce likes to do, man. So, yeah. Big up Joe Joyce. Shout out.
Big up Joe Joyce for real, man. You know we're going to be talking about that fight, obviously. As always, guys, let me just introduce, like with this particular show, any new joiners, man, that want to join, just feel free to hit the chat, drop any comments, let us know your opinions on any of the topics that we talk about, and we'll happily answer them. Drop a like when you get in the building as well. Feel free to share the video. Let's get the video out there to as many people as we can. And as always, the chat is filling up from early. We got Harvey, always first in the chat, man. My bro Harvey here. He's put, "What's up, guys? I hope you're both well." I'm good, man. Hope you're well as well, Harvey, man. Good to have you here. Francisco Alator, our friend, man. What's good, man? He's put, "Good to see you, brothers. We need some heavy funk theme music to go along with Laurie's display of power, speed, and accuracy." Yeah, we do. We need some. We need something, don't we? We need some.
Man, we do. But not the Rocky theme, man. Not the Rocky theme, because I'm sick of that Rocky stuff, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How somebody can be in the Boxing Hall of Fame for just like putting out a film is beyond me. Wouldn't happen in any other sport. But anyway, that's another matter for another time. It's another one of my pet beefs in boxing. And we're going to come to another one later with that bitch-ass Canelo. But anyway. No, it's definitely not a bitch-ass, but Canelo's been winding me up again this weekend, man. But hey, we'll get to that. But yeah, you know what? I just want to say shout out to DS wherever he is, man. I mean, I hope he can. I managed to catch up with him last week at your function. Shout out to you, Daryl, as well, by that function you put on last week in Luton at venue 360, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know. I mean, I know you're my son and I'm biased, man, but you put on a really nice event. I really enjoyed myself, and I got to meet DS for the first time. We, as you can imagine, we spent half the night chopping it up about boxing, but I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him. When I left, I didn't see him. So if he's watching, hopefully, shout out to DS. Big up yourself. Hope to see you again soon.
I'm sure he'll join at some point today if he can, for sure. But big up DS. And yeah, it was a great event, man. Very, very good event that was. So yeah, have to do another one soon. But let's talk boxing anyway, man. Yeah, let's talk boxing. I don't know where you want to start because I've got a lot to get off my chest today. We were just talking off camera before the show commenced. And I have to be real, man. I have to tell everybody here, Harvey already knows because I tweeted it earlier. If it wasn't for like people like Harvey and Francisco and, you know what I mean, speaking to you, I probably wouldn't even have done the show today.
Wow.
I'm at a bit of a crossroads of boxing right now. I know we're in the off season. I know it's like generally quiet around this time, but I'm just sick to death of everything that's going on right now, man. I have to be real.
Tell me, why are you so upset? Why are you so triggered?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say upset, but right now, I'm just not with it. Like, the Conor Benn fight's off. All right, it wasn't a fight that I was really like edging myself and really looking forward to anyway, because, you know, it's a good fight, but it was one who I knew that I'm pretty confident Conor Benn would have won it. But that fight being off, Canelo and Plant not working out, fights in general not being put together, I think it all just came to a head this week, if I'm being honest, for me. Just with all the news, like with this fight being off, Canelo and Plant not going ahead, Wilder and Fury a few weeks ago, the heavyweight division literally being on hold, Spence and Crawford not getting it on. How many of the big fights we're seeing out here not happening? We're seeing, like, you know, situations where Maris Bradis is calling out people like Jake Paul. Do you know what I mean? Like, where are we right now as a sport? What is actually going on, man? Because right now, I was watching some old videos that not too long ago, well, not videos, but just online and stuff, of like the fights from the early 2000s. That's when I was growing up, like the Felix Trinidads, the Fernando Vargases, and, you know, Shane Mosley, those type of guys. And, you know what I mean? I really had a buzz for boxing then. And right now, man, I just feel like I'm on a bit of a low. I'm on a bit of a downer. There's nothing really exciting me at the moment. Too many people making too many demands. Like the lightweight division ain't popping off as we thought it would be. Like, where do you want me to start? I could go anywhere. Like, there is literally, boxing is kind of on a downer for me right now, man. The Olympics is going on, which is good. But like, you know, I have to keep it 100, man. I'm not fully with it right now with boxing, man.
You know what? I hear you, and you make some very valid points, and I can understand your frustrations and your concerns. But I guess you've got to kind of take the approach that boxing is your passion, yeah? Boxing is something that you love. So think of it like a kind of errant girlfriend that you're going out with, someone that you truly really love. However, there's going to be times in that relationship when you're going to become exasperated and frustrated with some of the nonsense that goes on, and you think, you know what, do I even want to go out with this girl anymore? But you know that deep down you do have that love for her. So maybe it's that little phase you're going through in the relationship where you're not quite sure, you're questioning yourself. But ultimately you think, you know what, yeah, I actually do love her. I do love the sport. So what you're experiencing now, I've experienced many times. So yeah, man, boxing's in your blood, man.
Yeah.
You will come out of this funk, for want of a better word, that we're going through. But I do understand your frustrations, man. I do.
It is, man. I mean, I'm just like, I can't look forward to anything too much anymore. I think the AJ Fury thing, the way how that, you know, transpired, where we were literally on a cliffhanger for so long, it was like, you know, we're going to get an announcement next week. We're going to get an announcement this week or next week or next week. And listen, we all have our ideas on who to blame for this. And I certainly have mine. But I just think that with, you know, the way how that ended and just the fact that, you know what I mean? Like, we've got Spence and Pacquiao coming up next month. You know, that's a good fight. But is it really, it's not the fight we really wanted in the welterweight division, is it? Although Pacquiao is an actual legend and a huge name in the game, like, the majority of us are picking Errol Spence to win that. There's not many people, let's be real, that are picking Pacquiao to win that, don't you think? So,
well, you know, if you go online, all you ever see is videos of Manny Pacquiao training. That's all you ever see. You know what I mean? It's almost as if he's fighting a nobody, because Errol Spence is hardly being mentioned. But anyway,
just the fight we wanted, you know what I mean? That's probably not going to happen now with Errol Spence. That's probably not going to happen. I mean, they're talking it up again, but how do we know they're not just talking it up because Errol Spence has a fight coming up? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, you get that nowadays. Like with Gervonta Davis, looked spectacular the other day, knocking out Mario Barrios. Then straight after the fight, you got Floyd Mayweather and Leonard Ellaby saying, oh, yeah, well, we're only fighting who we want to fight. It's just like, come on, man. After a while, you just get sick of it.
That's because Josh Taylor, Darryl, he's nobody. Apparently, nobody knows who Josh Taylor is.
Yeah, just conning the public. All this. We know what you're doing. Like, it gets sick after. You get sick of it after a while, man. I think that's where I am. Harvey in the comments has put here, I get your frustration. I think a lot of people are feeling the same right now. Jamie Payne has put here.
I get it, man. I get it.
You get it, innit?
Yeah, I do get it. Absolutely, I do get it, because I experienced similar frustrations myself. But like I always say to you, Darryl, you've only got to, you see, what happens in boxing is the same for what happens in a lot of organizations and a lot of situations in life, full stop. You start at the top and that filters down. So you've got the so-called, and you know where I'm going here, the pound for pound king of boxing. He just gets away with everything he wants to get away with. He does what he wants when he wants. There's no accountability. And that sets the tone for everybody else, isn't it? Yeah. So he carries on like a diva, and you know what I mean, and makes the most outrageous demands, and you know what I mean, calls off fights, you know what I mean, with so many weeks to go and stuff like that. Then it becomes a recurring theme. You've seen Tyson Fury, how he's behaved, not just with the Wilder fight, but before that with the AJ fight. You saw how he treated the fans and the sport of boxing with utter contempt. You've seen Canelo do it, you know what I mean? Demanding that Abner Yildirim be his mandatory challenger. You know what I mean? So it's just a morass, man. It's an absolute, it's just sleazy, isn't it, what goes on, man? There's just no rule. It's the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's top of the sport being governed, really.
When they want. And there's no rules, there's no guidelines. The sanctioning bodies are all over the place. And that's at best. At worst, they're just outright corrupt. So there's no structure in boxing. I remember a little while ago, shout out to my brother Steve. My brother Steve works in broadcasting. He's got quite a senior position in the BBC. And he was saying to me, and I hope I'm not, compromising his confidentiality or anywhere. But I remember there was one time I had some like deep conversations with him when we was talking about getting more boxing on terrestrial TV. And he said to me, Laurie, there's a lot of people at the BBC that would love to put on boxing, but they just can't trust the figures within the sport. He said, do you know how many times people have sat round the table, top TV executives have sat round the table with senior figures in boxing and tried to, map out a program of scheduled fights. And he goes, you just get let down and led a merry path, you know what I mean? He goes, it's impossible to deal with these guys. And he said that, that is one of the main reasons why terrestrial TV have just kind of, dumped boxing, if you like. I mean, they're not really interested, and it shows, isn't it? How much boxing do you see on terrestrial TV?
I mean, Channel 5, really.
You were talking about with fights, people speak about fights, people get excited, and then next minute, for whatever reason, it's not happened. And it's just a recurring theme. And it makes the sport very unpalatable. Yeah,
it's Channel 5, I suppose, are those that they show terrestrial boxing now and then, but it's not like it was back in the day when it was ITV. But at least they're showing it. But my
brother said to me that reliability is a major concern for the TV execs, meaning that. You'll speak about fights, but will the fights get made? There'll always be some problem. So you can't guarantee the viewer or the broadcaster what they're going to get. So subsequently, they don't bother with it. They think, it's more hassle than it's worth. And then, of course, in recent times, you've seen some of the, let's be honest, man, let's keep it 100. Some of the murky figures, I'm not going to name names. You all know who I'm talking about, that's involved in boxing. Again, this type of stuff puts TV people off and stops the sport from growing, because people just think boxing is just a load of crooks or, or real Neanderthal figures, real shady stuff. And they say, you know what, thanks, but no thanks. We'd rather look elsewhere. Other sports stealing a profile from boxing.
Yeah, look at the YouTuber fights nowadays. And
into that taking over. Into that vacuum has stepped YouTube boxing, because they have realized that there's no rules to this game. You can get a guy like Jake Paul, who a couple of years ago was a YouTuber making wacky ass videos. And now all of a sudden I see last week, he's actually on some video saying that he wants to take down Canelo in a couple of years' time. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he fought Canelo in a couple of years' time.
Yeah.
It's probably likely that he will, because he understands the dynamic of boxing. If you've got money and you've got a bit of clout, you can do anything you want in this sport. There's no rules, there's no regulations, there's no guidelines, there's no accountability. People are not answerable to anyone. You just do what you want. As long as you've got a few quid and you can pay a few people off or convince people to, buy pay-per-view, then you do what you want, right? You know what I mean? It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it's just, and the knock-on effect on boxing is just that it's just seen as an absolute joke. I mean, look at the growth of UFC and MMA. Look how that's just sort of crept up and just taken away from boxing, man. Whether you want to, some people would say it's bigger than boxing. I personally don't think it is, but you got a lot of people going around saying I'd rather watch MMA or UFC rather than boxing. Now, whether you believe that MMA or UFC is bigger than boxing, the one thing you can't argue is that it's taken a big chunk of people that used to follow boxing away from the sport. And obviously that's very detrimental to boxing.
Do you know what it is? And I'm just going to give my opinion. I'm going to read this comment out from Francisco, but I'll tell you what it is and why they're saying that. Francisco has put here, your frustration is justified, especially because we have some divisions that are stacked. 147, 154, 135, even the heavyweights. But the business always gets in the way. And Laurie's right about Canelo.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? It's the best not fighting the best.
Yeah.
The best are not fighting. That's what it is. In UFC, they do.
The best are not fighting the best. It's boxing is so political right now as well. It's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's not like how good you are, who's who you're connected with, and stuff like that. And like I said, you got somebody. I mean, look at what other sport do you know? I keep saying this to people. What other sport do you know that you can get a convicted 2-time drug street who is said to be the face of your sport? You know what I mean? And not only that, it's the face of the sport. He just goes around willy-nilly doing exactly what he wants.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think, like, yeah, as you're saying, it for me, right, I don't know how you feel, but for me right now, it's kind of like this week I've just been like, this is some BS, man. It's just been some BS. And like I know that with the Canelo and Plant, we'll talk about that situation as to why we think that fight's particularly broken down, but it's just the fans at the end of the day, we don't really care the reasons. We just want to see the fight. You know what I mean? Like, we don't care, like, minus the fanboys, because the fanboys will always have something to say. But in terms of fans like me and you, we just want to see these fights. We don't care about the splits. We don't care about anything like that. We just want to see these two fight each other. Same with Fury and AJ. Same with Spence and Crawford. Couldn't give a shit what they get. Do you know what I mean? I'll pay for it. That's all that matters. But, that's where we are right now.
And as you also have to throw into it the proliferation of sanctioning bodies and belts. I mean, I think last time I checked, there was something like 70-odd world champions. I mean, it's funny. You may have a conversation with somebody that's not a big fan of boxing. What's the term we like to use? A casual. And they'll say, well, who's the world champion at middleweight? And it's embarrassing because you can rattle off the names of 4 or 5 guys. And that person will turn, no, I mean, who's the world champion? Who's top, who's the best in the world? And you can't name them.
Yeah.
Whereas if a UFC welterweight, Kamaru Usman, you know what I mean, light heavyweight, John Jones, and so on and so on, you can name them. You know what I mean? But in boxing, man, it's just, like I said, it's a morass. It's just completely mixed up and, you know what I mean, and all over the place. And no one knows, anything what's going on. It's just terrible, man.
J Love Boxing TV has put here, you're talking some sense, lads. Do you think Eddie and DAZN can change the boxing landscape? I think he can, and I think he has, but he can't do it on his own. He can't do it. He needs it in terms of boxing the landscape to change. He's going to need some help from the others. They're going to need to cooperate with each other. We need to see some of those cross fights, but everybody's got their own. Everybody's looking after number one, first of all, So I think it will take more than him to change it. Do you agree, Laurie?
Yeah, I think it will. I think they can only do so much. And I think the problem with boxing as well, there's too many vested interests, man. Vested financial interests. So people they've got no real reason to change the dynamic of what they're doing. Because, you know what I mean, they're making a lot of money now doing what they do currently. Yeah. So why would they change the status quo? That's the problem. And once you've got these vested interests and no real accountability and no real governing body worthy of the name, you're always going to get people just making things up as they go along. Yeah,
like Leonard Ellaby.
Well, he's not. Yeah, he's one, but he's one of many.
Yeah, he's not just him, should I say? J Love has also put here, fans have finally woken up to Fury. Yeah, well, like they have. Let's be real. Like Fury's been on some BS as well, man. Complete BS. I think the fans are starting to wake up to that as well. I mean, you already had your thoughts about Fury anyway, Laurie, but a lot of fans now, even the ones his diehard supporters, can't really defend him right now with some of the actions that's been going on.
And that's the problem, and you alluded to it earlier. You see, what happens is you get so-called fans of these guys, but they're not really fans of the sport. They're just fans of Fury, or they like Fury. So they're prepared to put up with anything he does. Yeah. Only now are they coming around to the fact that he's taking a piss out of those guys, the same way he is out of boxing fans in general and the sport. He's treated the sport with utter contempt. And it's just a pity that those guys, the ones that Jane loves talking about, are just finally coming around to what we knew a very long time ago, which is this guy's a master manipulator, and he's just treating the sport with contempt and treating certain situations to suit his own ends. Yeah. And it's very poor. But then he's not the only one, like I said. You couldn't.
He's not the only one.
No.
J Love is saying here, Jukan versus Lee Wood is being pushed as a world title fight this weekend. Hearn's playing the game. Yeah, I'm sure Eddie Hearn said before, about regular titles being on the line, and I'm sure he said something like that. And now this is the same thing. A lot of contradictory statements and all of that. But hey, if you can sell a fight, he's been pushed in a situation where he has to try and sell this. And Conor Benn versus Adrian Granados, that fight being called off. He hasn't really. The start to his fight camp series hasn't been very good this year, man. He's been through quite a bit. I heard Shannon Courtney pull it out of her fight in a couple of weeks. Obviously you've got this fight here, Conor Benn and Granados, not happening now. So how do you justify those pricey tickets that are being sold to go to this fight camp? Do you know how much tickets are to get there? Do you know how much they are? Like £750, I think, for a ticket.
That's what I'm saying.
You're gonna have
online this week, and the amount of people I've seen on there who are complaining bitterly about, because of course last weekend should have been Wilder Fury, and people saying that they'd lost a lot of money because they purchased flights to Vegas, they purchased hotel rooms, and they're not getting their money back. A lot of them, especially in terms of the flights. The hotel rooms some people found easier to cancel. But in terms of the money for flights and stuff like that, they're not getting their money back. So a lot of people are pissed off about that. So can you imagine when they announce the confirmed date for the next fight, there's going to be a lot of people who's probably going to say, you know what, I don't trust that fight going ahead. Because I don't really. Do you? Do you?
No,
can
no,
you sit here and speak now and say with any real justification that Tyson Fury is going to honor that fight in October? I certainly wouldn't get money on it.
Nope. I don't have faith in anyone anymore.
You know what I mean? I could see a muscle injury or something else, or you know what I mean? It's just, man. Right now, the sport is at a very low ebb. I have to say.
Our apologies for that. I mean, I'm coming across as pretty negative. I do understand that, but if you guys feel I'm being too negative, feel free to say. But I just thought I'd share my opinions today, man. And I just think at the moment the sport's on some BS. It's not everybody's fault. I mean, it's not. I mean, Conor Benn. I mean, he's caught COVID. It is what it is. But it's just on some BS in general, just the sport in general. That's just my thoughts on it. Like I said, like the fights I grew up on, those particular fights there with the guys that I mentioned to you earlier, like the Mosley, the people that you got me into boxing on, the Mosleys, the Mayweathers, do you know what I mean? The Moraleses, the Barreras, the Roy Jones, James Toney, like Vernon Forrest, Fernando Vargas, Tito Trinidad, Bernard Hopkins. I just don't remember this amount of BS happening back in the day. I mean, there was, I'm sure, but I don't remember it being this bad. Do you know what I mean? Am I wrong?
Although, to be fair, we do have to keep it, 100 and say that COVID coming along has decimated not just boxing, but a lot of different sports and a lot of different businesses.
Yeah.
This is something like we've never seen before in my lifetime, certainly not in your lifetime. And so really we should also say that COVID has played a part in a lot of the problems that we're having now. I mean, so for example, with the Conor Benn fight, I absolutely do believe what's happened there. I'm not casting any doubt or aspersions on Conor Benn and his team because he's got absolutely no reason to pull out of the fight otherwise. So I'm not for 1 minute throwing any shade on those guys. But nevertheless, the COVID has just worsened what was already a bad situation.
Big up to J Love Boxing TV. He's heading off to make the kids some dinner. Thank you for joining us, man. Look forward to catching up with you again. Big up J Love Boxing TV. Carry on, Laurie.
Yeah, so I was saying that, COVID is something like what the likes of which we've never seen before. And it's not just boxing that's being adversely affected by COVID. You've seen what it's done to the Olympics. It got cancelled before. Now it's going ahead. I mean, come on, let's be real, man. This is not the Olympics like what we know it, is it? No. You compare previous Olympic Games. This is nothing compared to that.
And I feel really sorry for the Olympians. Do you know what I mean? Because imagine how they must feel, man. They've trained all their life for this moment, and then everyone's just saying, this don't feel like the Olympics.
And this is what makes me even more mad when I see what's happened in the case of Tyson Fury and Teofimo Lopez.
I forgot to mention him.
I strongly suspect that we're being lied to. You know what I mean? I said that on your show. I make no bones about saying it. I am very dubious about both of those two fights being cancelled through to COVID. You know what I mean? I suspect that there are other things at play there.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, let's crack on with.
We'll crack on. Harvey said here.
Discussing.
Say again.
I said because otherwise we could be here till eternity discussing the problem and then the you know what I mean, the idiosyncrasies of boxing. So
Harvey said here, imagine paying £750 to watch Ben headline just to end up with Lee Wood. I feel bad for them. Yeah,
and it goes back to what I was saying before when I had that conversation with my brother about why is there no real dedicated boxing on terrestrial TV, and he that was one of the first reasons he came up with. He said, Laurie, unfortunately for boxing, it's not a reliable sport, you know, and you sit round, you have business meetings, top execs, senior figures in the boxing world, you map out a plan, you think you've got things agreed, and it goes, lo and behold, you get a call 2 weeks later, well, I'm sorry, I can't get him, he's pulled out, this, that, the other, you know what I mean? It goes too problematical. But there you go.
Yeah. Well, let's talk some boxing anyway, man. Talk about Joe Joyce's fight at the weekend. He fought Carlos Takam, stopping him in 6 rounds, and the juggernaut rolls on. You know what? A lot of the feedback that I was seeing online with regards to that fight with Joe Joyce was that he looked very beatable, obviously very hittable, didn't look good at all, wouldn't last very long against, you know, the top echelon of the heavyweights. But, you know, Joe Joyce is what he is, in my opinion. I wasn't surprised at all with the performance or the way how he won the fight. That's just Joe Joyce. He's never going to look like $1 million on the eye. But what he does it well. Like you said at the beginning when you were shadow boxing there, he gets the job done. Yeah. He's a huge mountain of a heavyweight, very athletic, very strong, going to be tough to beat. And he might not look very good on the eye, but he gets the job done. And he did it against Carlos Takam, albeit he didn't look very good in the early rounds. But that's just Joe Joyce, man. I mean, I don't think he was as bad as people were saying, because I'm just used to seeing Joe Joyce like that. But again, if I was to watch that with a casual now, they would watch Joe Joyce and they'd be like, no, he'd get knocked out by the first good heavyweight he goes in with. But listen, Joe Joyce did what he had to do. Carlos Takam, he was complaining afterwards. He was bitterly complaining to the referee. But for me, I didn't really have too much problem with the stoppage. Some people thought it was a bit early, but at the end of the day, Takam wasn't throwing back to me. I mean, no matter what he says, there was a period where he wasn't throwing back, and the last shot that hit him kind of staggered him. So I've seen worse stoppages, put it that way. I've seen worse. Some people didn't agree with it. Derek Chisora didn't. I saw some people online didn't. But, you know, for me, I wasn't screaming at the TV at that one. Not me.
Right, yeah. I mean, listen, first up, what you said there about Joe Joyce. I have to say I watched the fight and I was a bit surprised at the performance, to be honest, because he got hit way too much than he should have done against a 40-year-old Carlos Takam. I didn't think it was a very good performance at all, to be honest. So I can understand the criticism he did receive, although you have to balance it up with the fact that you also suggested there that Joe Joyce is not the most aesthetic looking guy to watch in boxing in terms of technique. Far from it. But then, like you said, he gets the job done. In terms of the actual stoppage, I don't know what Carlos Takam's complaining about.
Nor do I.
If you stand there and let a man tee off on you like 20, 30 odd unanswered punches, what do you expect the referee to do? Like, you know what I mean? And what makes it even worse for Carlos Takam is that we've been there before, weren't we? When he fought AJ, he made the same complaints. You would have thought, okay, well, last time I was in the UK, when AJ was teeing off on me and I never fired back within a certain period of time, the referee stopped the fight. So you know what? If I've learned anything from the AJ fight is that I'll cover up, I'll take a few shots, but then I'll show to the referee that I'm still in the fight. But no, it was even worse this time. You cannot let a heavyweight fighter, especially someone like Joe Joyce, or any fighter in any weight really, you just stand there with your hands down and let the man tee off on you and you're sort of wobbling across the ring and expect the referee not to stop it. What? I couldn't understand what he was complaining about, honestly. I mean, I watched it a couple of times back, that particular segment, and I honestly, I just thought it was laughable that he was complaining about.
Yeah,
There was nothing to complain about. You were not. You got to fire back. You got to show to the referee that you're cognizant. You know what you're doing, and that you're in there fighting. You can't just stop fighting, and then when the referee stops it, you start showing all that aggression and energy after. You should have shown that before.
yeah.
So I've got very little sympathy with him over that. It wasn't a premature stoppage at all. You cannot just not stop punching, be getting hit, unless you're in total control of the situation. Sometimes the guys will do the like modern day rope of dope. They'll choose to go to the ropes. They'll put their hands up, and you can quite clearly see that the other fighter's missing, and then they'll come back with a few punches of their own, or they'll move off the ropes, or they'll move away. But this guy wasn't doing that. He was just stuck in that same position. And then, like you said, the last couple of shots had him wobbling across the ring. Now, God forbid, you know the kind of injuries that can happen in boxing. You know the kind of tragic scenarios we've seen in boxing over the years, right? Can you imagine, right, if the referee had let that go on a couple of shots too long, and then the next day, Carlos Takam is admitted to hospital, and then we find out that he's got a brain injury of some sort? Can you imagine the stick that the referee would have got for that?
Yeah.
He would have said, how can you make this guy take all those unanswered shots and you did? What are you doing? And they would have been right in saying that. Listen, one of the referee's main roles in officiating is to protect the fighters. And if you see a guy, he's getting teed off on and he's not returning fire, I think the referee's obliged to stop it.
Yeah.
I think he's failing in his duty not to stop it, actually.
I agree. Steve Harrison has said here, it will only change, and I think he must be answering a question earlier, but he's put here, it will only change if promoters support the stance that Boxing News have taken one champion, but they won't, as it's not a good business model. They can sell a regular title to fans and networks as a proper title. We've seen that with Gervonta Davis. We're seeing that this weekend. So what Steve is saying here is that the promoters need to be on board as well, but for them, that might cost them money. Do you know what I mean? It could be a conflict of interest for them. And that, again, it's just the problem, really, isn't it? Then you've got to blame the alphabet belts. You've got to blame them for what's going on with that. So it's just like you said earlier, the sport's not being governed, really. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit of a mess. You got everybody doing what they want to do. You got YouTubers jumping in. You've just got, it's a mess. Do you know what I mean?
It is a total mess. And like I said, there's no official, recognized, universal governing body. And until something like that happens, where you've got an overarching body that makes the rules and is able to organize, boxing will always have its problem size, always.
Yeah.
There's no accountability. There's no uniformity. People just do what they want. If they've got a bit of money, me and you could set up a sanctioning body. Do you know that? Seriously, me and you could get together, right? Get some investors, get some money up, and say we're starting a sanctioning body.
The boxing lowdown belt.
Yeah, and give out a belt. You know what I mean? Get some fighters. If we pay enough money, the boxers are going to come box for us, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how it works. So in an essence, in a nutshell, that's part of the problem there, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
So
last word on Joe Joyce before we move on. I saw that afterwards he was he's waiting for the winner of Joshua Usyk. He said he wants that next. In the meantime, he said that he'll happily take a filler fight against somebody like Derek Chisora. And do you believe that that's a filler fight for Joe Joyce at this stage?
yeah, one he could fill his boots with, because he'd beat Derek, man, especially the Derek at this stage of his career. That engine would just be too much for Derek. It might be entertaining for a few rounds because, Derek does start quite fast, actually. Come out rolling and throwing those big shots, the overhand right and left hook.
He knocked down Joseph Parker in the first round.
Yeah. So it would be interesting for a few rounds. But I think the pattern of the fight might be what happened on Saturday, whereas Takam gave of his best. He did better than I thought he would do, to be honest.
Yeah.
But once the engine clicks into gear, and he just wears guys down, and that's what he was doing to Takam. So yeah, I would expect him to do exactly the same to Derek. May take a few rounds longer, but ultimately the outcome is going to be the same.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I mean, it depends on how long he has to wait for his world title shot. But I don't know how many of these fillers he would want, actually. He might be best served just waiting for a shot.
A bit like Dylan White.
Yeah, well, exactly. So you don't know how, yeah, I mean, that being said, what I've just said there is predicated on how long they have to wait, you know? I think that what Harvey suggests there is a good fight.
Yeah.
It's a great fight, actually.
Who you got in that fight? If they were to fight tomorrow, who would you pick in that one?
I think I might have to lean towards Joe Joyce, but I wouldn't write Dillian out completely.
I think I'll pick Dillian, man.
You do?
Yeah, I think so. It's a very good fight, though. It's a very, very good fight, that is. For me.
It is. Yeah.
Do you think the juggernaut would be too much for it? You think it'd push the jab in Dylan's face all night, keep him off balance?
I think what we'd see is Dillian coming forward, looking to land those big shots, but he'd be running into Joe Joyce's jab, and it's how he could negotiate that, you know.
I'll pick Dillian, man. I think Dillian's beating a better competition. Harvey said here he can see either man winning. I can see that as well.
Yeah, I could as well. Yeah. I must admit, I would make Joe Joyce the favorite on account of his better conditioning, because Derek, his form can go, can't it?
No, Dillian.
It deteriorates for long fights.
You mean Dillian?
Dillian, yeah. Sorry, Dillian, yeah. Yeah, he can look a bit unorganized, and you know what I mean? As he gets down the stretch, he starts to gas out. There's no doubt about who's got the better engine. That's definitely Joe Joyce.
Yeah.
But Dillian, to me, hits harder. And Dillian does have a decent work rate. It's just that, like I said, when he gets tired, I could see Joe Joyce exploiting that a little bit down the stretch. So I'd lean towards Joe Joyce, but it's by no means a given.
Big up my man A. Obes in the chat here. He's put, and I agree with him here, he's put, the problem is Dillian's left hook and overhand right would be landing heavy and regularly. Can Joe Joyce take that all night? I don't know, man. I don't know.
He has a very good chin, doesn't he, Joe Joyce?
He has, but Dylan's got a very, very good left hook too. That's a great fight.
Very interesting fight, by the way.
Yeah.
That would be a very interesting fight.
Great fight.
Yeah, why not, man? Let's do it. I'd also like to see Dillian versus Deontay Wilder, though.
Yeah.
That's an even more exciting fight, given on the personal history between the two guys.
Yeah.
And I think the press conference with Dillian and Wilder would be way more exciting, for example, than the press conference between Joe Joyce and Dillian.
Yeah, we'll see. Aobes just put here that fight is amazing. It would be a very good fight, man. Let's move on and speak about Canelo and Caleb Plant. The news filtered through this week that negotiations have completely broken down between those two. So now it doesn't look like that we will be getting Canelo and Caleb Plant in September. Canelo's looking at other options. He's looking at a possible third fight with Triple G, of all people. Not a fight that I want to see. Not a fight that I think will happen anyway, because I think Triple G is going to be fighting Murata in December. But if the Canelo fight comes about, I'm sure he'll take it. However, there are other options now that Canelo could pursue. There's Dimitri Bivol as well. That fight could be made. Caleb Plant could be fighting Caleb Truax, of all people, again. So, yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard. I hope it's not true, but I saw that. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on that? Like, what's your thoughts on the whole situation there with Canelo?
Well, it would appear that Canelo is acting like a diva. And what we're hearing is, I mean... Is it
Canelo's fault, though?
In what way? I mean, apparently he's made a long list of demands, and Caleb Plant has accepted most of those demands, except for a couple. One was a drug testing, and there was something else.
Yeah, I don't know the full extent of it, but I just saw Caleb Plant was speaking to a reporter, and he was saying that, you know, he's given up so much, and then literally gave up so much for Canelo, so it got to a point where he couldn't anymore. So I'm seeing people slander Caleb Plant a lot online, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's his own man. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know how bad it was, but Canelo is known for being a bit of a diva sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I don't know. We don't know, do we? Because at the moment, most of the conversation is being aired out by Caleb Plant's team. Now, what I would say, though, is if what he's saying is true, and I've got no real reason to suggest that he's not telling the truth. He was saying that one of the major stumbling blocks on this fight falling through is the drug testing. Now, if that is the case, that Canelo is not agreeing to VADA or being slow to enroll into VADA, then I am very concerned about that. And most boxing fans should be very concerned about that, particularly given Canelo's history with regards to performance enhancing drugs. So, and if it's true that Caleb Plant's team have said that the fight won't go ahead and citing that as one of the reasons, then I'm absolutely with them on that.
Yeah.
100%. I'm absolutely with them on that.
Harvey's just put here, I've just seen on Twitter that apparently Canelo's team have contacted Bivol's team. Be an easy fight to make, wouldn't it?
It would be an easy fight to make, but then, you know, what kind of conditions would they be seeking to subject Bivol to? Or are they just using Bivol as leverage in the negotiations with Caleb Plant? So basically they're saying, okay, well, you know, we got Bivol.
Don't know what's happened with Laurie there. I don't know if the connection's gone or what. However, what I'm going to carry on. A. Obes has put here, Canelo is paying Plant 10 million when Plant's highest payday is 750K. Plant should be grateful. Yeah, I totally get that. I haven't seen, I'll be honest with you, Obes, I haven't seen all of what everybody's been saying about it. I've just seen, obviously, that the fight negotiations are broken down. And I've seen what Caleb Plant has had to say. I haven't seen the full details as to you know, Canelo's side of the story or whatnot. But again, it's just another frustrating situation. Do you know what I mean? It's just another situation where we're not getting the fights that we want to see. We're not getting the undisputed title fight between the two. And I think Laurie's gone off now. He'll be back on shortly, I'm sure. But he's also said here that drug testing is not true. Canelo is under VADA. Well, we'll ask Laurie when he comes back about that. We'll ask him when he comes back. He's just calling me now, so let me see what he's got to say. Hold on. Let me put him on live while we're here. Yo, you're still online?
Oh, because my connection's just gone here.
Did it just come? No, I mean, are you able to come back on?
I'll try. The internet's just gone.
Oh, I'm still online, so I'll carry on and we'll just I'll get you on if you can, yeah. See, you guys heard that. See what happened there? Every time Laurie talks about Canelo, his connection goes. Do you know what I mean? That's the situation. I figured it out. There's some Mexican guys that's listening to this channel, man, and they're cutting off Laurie every time he slanders Canelo. But Obes is saying that drug testing situation is not true. I'll have to look into that. I'll have to look into that, man, because I didn't know, to be honest. I've been on a downer with boxing all week, so I haven't been paying too much attention to all of the news, but I'll check it out. Punch Perfect Boxing has said here, I like the fight. If Canelo goes up to 175, I'm not so fond if they make Bivol come down to 168. Yeah, good point. Because Bivol, they can make it at a catch weight. I could see him doing that because Bivol, he said he can make 168. And I think that Canelo will be in a position to dictate as to what weight he wants to be. And Bivol will take it anyway. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, if Canelo was to go up to 175, then yeah, that does play in the hands of Bivol a bit. But he's not a big light heavyweight anyway. So it will be interesting to see what happens there. I'm sure he said that he can get down to 168 as well. So let's see what Dimitri Bivol actually does there. I'm sure he'll take whatever offer Canelo has to an extent. Obes has put here, to be honest, they are probably both to blame. It's just annoying. And yeah, like you're just echoing my thoughts completely there, Obes, like with just boxing in general. Like I don't want to sound like a broken record, but at the moment, everything's just annoying me at the moment. I just have to keep it real. I needed somewhere to vent. And today here is just a good place for me to vent about boxing in general. So somebody might watch this later on and they might be like, oh, that Daryl's just moaning too much. He's just, you know, very negative. But those of you that know me know that I'm normally positive. But this week I've just been, I'll probably be better next week. But right now it's just some BS, man. Jamie Payne has put here, I'd say Bivol is a tougher and more exciting fight. I have to agree. I think it is the more exciting fight. Obviously, with the Caleb Plant fight, we had a chance there to see another undisputed champion. And that's always for me the priority, getting the number one in per weight class by having the undisputed belts. That has always been something that I like to see. So that's why I like to see the Caleb Plant fight. And also, I do like Caleb Plant as well. I do like watching him fight. But yeah, the Bivol fight is probably going to be more entertaining for sure. Obes has put here, Canelo said, cut the feed. Yeah, for real. We got Laurie back here, man. Just in time. Let me get him back on. Listen, but you were talking slander about Canelo again, and the feed cut out, man. The feed cut out again.
Yeah, man. Canelo must have found out and sent instruction. You know what I mean?
I'm hearing some people in the comments are saying that drug testing, they don't know how true that is. Where did you see a source for that, or was that just online somewhere?
Yeah, like I said, I did say, I tried to preface it. I tried to qualify things by saying that is something that I'd seen online over the last few days. Basically, what I was told was, or what these videos were suggesting, was that Canelo had made a long list of demands, most of whom Caleb Plant and his team had agreed to. But there was one or two that they were absolutely refusing to agree to. And one of them was the drug testing. So it's been suggested that that was one of the main reasons why the fight had hit that sticky point and may not now go ahead. Personally, I think the fight will go ahead. Because
Plant and Canelo.
Yeah, because I think that Caleb Plant will probably look at it and say this is his major opportunity. It's also life-changing money. So maybe he just wanted to put it out there and say, listen, man, this is what I'm up against with these guys. It could be, quite a clever move on Caleb Plant's part, because if he does lose, then a lot of people are going to infer that the reason why he lost was because of stuff like this. And that because Canelo's still juicing. I've got no real reason to dispute what he says at the moment, but you can't actually say that that is the reason until we know more.
Yeah.
Whether we'll ever find out more, of course, is another matter, isn't it?
Harvey says here, Bivol outboxes Canelo, in my opinion, at 175, but I don't think he gets the decision. Elbs has said here, Bivol said he would come to 168. That's a mistake. And then he's also put that Conor Ben news capped off a trash week. Yeah, you got that right, Obes. Francisco has said here, Laurie, he's put, though I want Canelo to do well, I agree with your criticism, but I heard an issue with Plant is that PBC wants Canelo to sign a multi-fight deal and he doesn't want to. I don't blame Canelo for that. But also, most likely, Canelo doesn't want to sign a multi-fight deal with PBC because Heyman probably wants him to fight the fighters he's avoiding. And your thoughts on the drug testing are correct.
Yeah. You see, with the deal, I also heard a rumor around that as well, and I do agree with Francisco here. Is that whilst that may be a sticking point, I don't think that would be enough to stop the fight. If you see what I mean, because I'm pretty sure
multi-fight deal.
Yeah, if you're pretty sure if you're PBC, you're not going to put that as a stipulation. If you see what I mean, because Canelo, let's face it. Why would he sign a deal like that? You know what I mean? So I do. It's a difficult one because we really do need to hear more from maybe some people that are more independent of the situation than Canelo in his team and Caleb Plant on his team. But are you going to get that? You see?
Yeah.
I mean, there would have been people there mediating. But are they going to come out and say what really happened? And if they did, then one or the other side who looks bad, they're going to say, oh, no, they're not telling the truth. So the reality is we will never really know who's telling the truth here.
Yeah.
But I must admit, my ears did prick up when I saw the drug testing thing, because I thought, that does kind of make sense to me.
Yeah.
We've seen in other fights. I mean, look how long it took Pacquiao and Mayweather to get made. They're saying up to 5 years, wasn't it? And a chief sticking point in that particular fight was the drug testing, where Manny did not want to submit to the drug testing. And Floyd was saying, look, there's no fight unless you do that. And it took them years to resolve that matter. So the drug testing does have some kind of credibility that I could see, although I wouldn't like to say that is the real reason, full stop. Yeah. But I can see for a number of reasons why that would be a problem. Because whether we like it or not, whether the Canelo fans like it or not, the facts is that Canelo has a reputation for PEDs. Now, if you're Caleb Plant, who doesn't have a reputation for PEDs, as far as we know, you are going to insist, aren't you, that there's drug testing for this fight? We've seen what happened with Keith Thurman when he fought Manny, and there was no drug testing for the fight. He took the money, right? When he lost, he started complaining about the drug test. It's too late then, bro. You know what I mean? You should have done your due diligence before.
Yeah, but with the WBC, ain't it mandatory that you are enrolled on the clean boxing program? Ain't that something that's stipulated anyway for you to fight under the?
No one stipulates the Canelo anything. You seen what this guy's done. This guy can ring up Suleiman and say, look, I'm fighting Abner Yildirim, making my mandatory contender. Even though he was coming off the back of losses and hadn't fought for 18 months. Yeah. And Suleiman did it. Much to our chagrin, much to our disgust, but he did it. So I don't really trust those guys, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Obes has said here, I want Plant to get his payday because he has suffered a lot of personal tragedy losing his daughter. Hope it goes through. Yeah, I like Caleb Plant a lot, and I hope it goes through as well.
But to be fair to Caleb Plant, he said all along that it's not, the money is secondary for him. He wants to win the titles. He wants to unify the belts. And I do believe him. He did sound sincere when he said that to me. He goes, unlike some of the other guys that fought. Because if you remember, and the reason why I kind of do agree, why I do believe him, is that if you remember, they tried to get Caleb Plant in the ring before. But it's something like they were giving him 6 weeks notice and he turned the fight down. And I remember when he turned the fight down, which to me is a very sensible thing to do. A lot of people said, oh, he's ducking. Yeah, why don't you just take the opportunity? You'll never get that opportunity again. He said, no, when I fight Canelo, I want it to be on as level playing ground as possible, because I believe that on a level playing ground, I can beat this guy. I've got what it takes. And I give him credit for that. So he's not going to sell his O like what some fighters have done. Basically sell their O to Canelo.
Yeah.
I mean, agree to a list of demands that you know that's going to put you at a massive disadvantage. A bit like what Kovalev did with rehydration clauses and all sorts of stuff going on. The chances of him winning that fight were very minimal, but he did it. And he later admitted that he did it because he needed the money.
Oaks said here,
man, we all like money, but I don't need it that badly that I'm going to sell my own.
Obes has said here that drug testing issue can't be true because Canelo gets VADA tested.
Listen, Obs, I don't want to laugh at what you just said there, man, but come on, it's Canelo we're talking about here. So you know what I mean? Come on now. Let's keep it real. You know what I mean? Let's keep it real. I'm just going to leave it at that. Let's just keep it real. Go do your research into the way Canelo operates as relates to the WBC, and then come back to me. I think you'll find that it's a very different picture from the one you're painting at present, Ops, for real. No disrespect, but that's the truth.
What about Conor Benn and Adrian Granados? That fight was going to happen this weekend, but obviously it's called off now. Was you looking forward to that? Like, what was your thoughts on that actual fight anyway?
Yeah, I was looking forward to it. Not because I thought it was going to be a 50-50 fight or anything. I strongly fancied Conor Benn. But, you know, I was looking forward to it because it's another opportunity to see a fighter on the rise, a young, exciting fighter with a lot of talent. And I think that, you know, Granados would have been a decent test for him.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it depends on how motivated Granados is because he's coming off the back of a few losses. So he's not the fighter that he was a few years ago. And I get what Conor Benn's team are trying to do. They're trying to step him up. They're not putting him in with any real killers at the moment. But it would have been interesting to see how he got on because Granados can definitely handle himself within a ring. He's been in there with some good fighters, and it would have been interesting to see how that would have played out. So yeah, I am disappointed that that fight's not going ahead. Yeah, I am.
I mean, who else was on that show? There's so there's obviously Lee Wood and Zhukan on that week. Is Matthew Hatton on this week as well? Is he fighting?
I believe he was.
I can't remember the actual bill now, but
he was on the card. I know he's fighting soon.
Yeah. But Lee Wood and Zhukan, you look at. I mean, are you looking forward to that fight? Do you reckon, or like, are you still looking forward to the actual show? I mean, I'll definitely still be watching, regardless. It's only £2 on the zone, isn't it?
I'll definitely still watch, but I must admit, now that Conor Benn's not taking part, it has kind of severely taken away from the card, if I'm being honest. But I will still watch it. But then maybe I'm not the best person to ask because, you know what I mean, I watch boxing ad nauseum, you know what I mean? But definitely in terms of the attraction of the card, that's greatly diminished now that Conor Benn's not taking part.
Tommy McCarthy versus Chris Billam-Smith will be good, Stefan says here. Big up Stefan as well.
Yeah, that'd be a good fight, yeah. I didn't realise that fight was on this particular card. But yeah, that's a real good match as well, isn't it, that one? Yeah, those two have been going back and forth, so...
Stefan has also said here, COVID has to be the hardest pound-for-pound puncher in boxing right now, taking everybody out. Took out your boy Fury as well, didn't it?
Well, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? I know that they cited COVID, but some of the actions of Tyson Fury and his team in the immediate aftermath of that suggest to me that there might have been other things at play. But like I said, I don't want to go too much into it. But I must say that the Tyson Fury and the Teofimo Lopez pullouts just seem to have a ring of suspicion about it. Put it that way.
Big Lewis said here that the Ben pullout seems odd. So he thinks that this week's pullout seems, and this is the problem, man. I mean, people are gonna think that all the time now. You know, Big Lou said here, I'm not convinced with COVID as the excuse. So close to fight week, who is he mingling with?
Well, I mean,
are you going to have to introduce the bubbles again? Are you going to have to start doing that again?
But that's going to be more difficult to do because of when the bubbles were introduced previously, we was in a very different space as far as COVID was concerned, with all the maximum precautions being taken across the board. Now people are going out and mingling, you know what I mean? So even if the fighters do that, not everybody else associated with is going to be subject to those same rules.
But wasn't the impact though? The impact of these pullouts is going to have a major effect on the event. So maybe it will be wise to bring the bubbles back. Wasn't Conor Benn in? Wasn't he at that DAZN? You know, they had that little launch a couple of days ago. Wasn't he there?
Yeah.
So maybe some of those other people there have got COVID. Then, like, what's going on?
It's interesting because earlier on I was watching a video of a boxing channel that I won't name. But he made a very interesting observation. He was saying that he'd noticed there are lots of videos out with Manny Pacquiao, you know, training in the open and basically inviting people to run with him in the street and stuff like that. He said, whilst that's good for promoting the fight and promoting his brand, in terms of COVID, that's a very reckless thing to do. And I happen to agree with him, actually.
Yeah.
You can make the argument that the training is outside and they say that the COVID is less likely to affect you outside, but that just means it's less likely. It doesn't mean to say it can't happen. You know what I mean? We've seen a lot of people get COVID outdoors. So I do agree that Manny Pacquiao is taking a major risk, such a big fight. Of him, you know, signing autographs, taking selfies, mixing, mingling with people. I've even heard total strangers being invited to go with him on runs and so forth. It would appear that that is a slightly
not a lot of social distancing
coming up.
Yeah. Stefan's put here, hold tight, boxing lowdown. Big up yourself, Stefan, man. Good to have you here, bro. He's also said here, Eddie Hearn seemed way too happy in his IFL TV interview for a Ben pullout.
I must admit, I didn't see that IFL interview, so I couldn't really comment on
I haven't
that.
seen it yet. No, haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Big up IB in the chat. He's put here, I saw your tweet, Daryl, that you were about to not do the pod today. We may be a few, but we patiently await this great pod. Only a matter of time till this blows. Big up, guys. Hey, IB, big up yourself, man. And it's true, I did tweet. I don't know if I told you that earlier, Laurie, that
Yeah,
I did tweet.
yeah.
Yeah, I was literally, I weren't in the mood today. I was just like, oh, you know what? If it wasn't for these people in the chat, I probably wouldn't have done it. But big up IB, man. His comments like that, you know what I mean? It keeps man going. So, yeah, thank you for your comment.
Yeah, IB's basically saying what I said to you earlier as well, which is that I would like you to persevere. I mean, obviously, listen, man, I know you put a lot of work into these videos and you're very busy. You've got other things to do and you sacrifice a lot to get your channel up and running, to get videos out. And, you know, sometimes you're going to look at things and things don't quite blow up the way you want it to. And then on top of that, you're getting fights cancelled and stuff like that, which obviously makes things even more difficult. I can understand your frustration, but, you know, but that's what happens when you're passionate about something. You are going to get let down at times, you know. I was listening to a story today on the radio of an Olympic athlete, and she'd had to been training, dedicated her life for years and years. And then literally on the eve of the games, she tested positive for COVID and had to pull out. And she was saying how devastating that had been. She'd literally having to put her life on hold. She trained for the previous 3-4 years, twice a day, almost every day. You know what I mean? Made the Olympic team and then had to pull out with just a few days to go. So, you know, disappointments are all around us, man. I guess you just got to persevere and keep going and see what happens from there. So,
yeah, you're right. Thank you, IB, for the comment as well, man. Big up, bro. Big up, man.
Literally, people are out there supporting you, man, which is a great thing.
Yeah, like I said, I think it was just one of those weeks. Well, I've said this to you off camera before. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't for certain people in this chat, man, I don't know how long. Because certain stuff like this, man, it's just been a shit week for boxing wise, not normal, just boxing wise. And yeah, like I guess it happens sometimes. Yeah,
man. You know, you've got to roll with the punches, as they say. It is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my man from Manchester, isn't it?
Yeah, Lyndon Arthur. Yeah, I'm hearing that there was some news actually on
him. It is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is.
Did you see? Did you see a couple of days ago that they're talking about him and Yard fighting on the same day as Fury and Wilder? So kind of having that as like a warm up to the main event, not on the same show, but maybe like Lyndon Arthur and Yard in the UK, obviously, and then Wilder and Fury in America. So it'd be on the same night. Some people were
fighting again one day. I can see that.
Some people were saying, interestingly enough, they were saying, like, why does Lyndon Arthur have to fight Anthony Yard again? Do you know what I mean? He beat him decisively, according to them, with one hand. You know what I mean? So why does he have to fight Anthony Yard again? If Anthony Yard defeated Lyndon Arthur, would he have to fight him in a rematch? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I saw some comments there. What's your thoughts on that? Because
they're right.
It's a justified comment.
It is a justified comment, but then as we know, boxing is not a level playing field, you know what I mean? And, you know, I have to be honest and say that Anthony Yard is the one with the star quality in this particular situation. So it could be highly likely that those two may fight again down the road, especially if Lyndon can't get the fights he wants to get. I know he's trying to pursue a road to a world title, and I sincerely hope he gets that. But you just don't know how boxing's going to play out, you know. I mean, Craig Richards got a title shot before him against Bivol.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, man, Lyndon Arthur, he's a professional fighter, and money is important, as much or probably even more important than belts. So
you get the feeling.
If he can't get the fights he wants to get, he can't secure them, and in the meantime a massive offer comes in to fight Anthony Yard, I'm pretty sure he's going to take it.
You get the feeling if Anthony Yard won that fight, he'd be fighting a Joe Smith Jr. soon or someone like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, why not the same energy for Lyndon Arthur?
Yeah, that's right in one sense, but then as I said earlier, we know that boxing doesn't operate that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
if you got the so-called star quality and drawing power that they assuming that Anthony Yarder's got, then that will allow you certain advantages, shall we say? You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate for Lyndon Arthur, but unfortunately, that's the way it is in boxing.
Yeah, and that is boxing in general right now, man. You know,
the only thing is just getting worse. You know, so.
Can you see it getting better in terms of like just you know what I mean, in terms of getting these cross promote? I mean, we do, on a positive note, we do get the fight. I'm not saying that this never happens. Do you know what I mean? We do get crossover fights. We've got one coming up with Fury and Wilder in October. We had that already as well. We do get the big fights. I'm not saying it's completely shit, but there are just times where nothing frustrates you more than boxing in terms of other sports, because this is the only sport where you don't regularly get the best fighting the best. It's always an issue trying to get them two together. Whereas in like football, you get like Man City against Liverpool. You get those type of games. You get in basketball the Nets against whoever. Do you know what I mean? Like, or against the Bucks. So you get those sort of things. But in boxing, we have to beg for it. In boxing, we have to really beg for these guys to get it on, man. And there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of reasons why these fights don't happen. And do you know what I mean? After a while, it can get frustrating. I think that's where I got to this week.
Boxing is a unique sport in that way. As I said again, I'll say it again, as I said before, boxing is a unique sport. There is a lack of accountability. There's a lack of an overarching governing body to set the rules and for people to adhere to them. And it's kind of an anarchy when you think about it. So into that breach, people will step into it and they will just manipulate what's going on around them. And that's what I'm saying. The example is set from the top down. So if you've got a guy like Canelo, like I said, who's recognized by most as a pound for pound top fighter in the world and a #1 draw, then sometimes, you know what, sometimes you can't even blame Canelo. He's just exploiting the sport and treating it, you know what I mean, to make it suit his own ends.
Yeah.
Lots of people would probably do the same thing.
They would.
You know what I mean? So, you know, to greater or lesser degrees. And I think that until boxing corrects itself in that way, it's always going to be open to this type of egregious manipulation. So it's difficult to say when this is going to stop, man. Because even if you get a guy come along with the utmost integrity and morals as a world champion, the problem you're going to have is, yes, he will try and set the example. But supposing for whatever reason he loses title or he retires or whatever, somebody else comes along and then we're back to the same old bullshit again. There's no one to really rein them in.
Yeah.
So
Stefan has said here, Crawford versus Porter will be the next fight to disappoint us. Yeah. I mean, it could be.
I wish I could say with some assurity that Stefan would be wrong and that this fight will definitely go ahead and there'll be no shenanigans taking place, but we all know we can't guarantee that at all. In fact, if anything, it's more likely that something funny will happen than it not, if you see what I mean. That's just the way it's boxing right now, man.
Both of them came out this week, you know, very upbeat about the news. Crawford came out and was like, looked like, you know what I mean, put out some emojis saying, yep, I'm glad that this is happening. Sean Porter was on his podcast the other day, basically saying that, you know, that this fight will happen. He's looking forward to it. It's very good news for him. But yeah, we'll see. You know what I mean? Like, I can't trust anything right now. I can't. So until that's officially announced, then we'll see.
Well, I guess the encouraging thing is that both fighters have come out and blessed the fight, as it were, and said how much they're looking forward to it. Let's hope that they keep their word, man. We want to hold them to it and see what happens because, you know, it's a really good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I you know, I mean, I genuinely look forward to seeing that fight, but then you don't know what's going to get in the way. Final negotiations, COVID, injury, you know, I mean, there's a whole litany of things that could go wrong. I just hope it doesn't, though.
To end the show today, I'm going to give you a list of fights, and I just want you to just let me know. Give me one-word answers whether you think that they will go ahead or not. In your humble opinion, whether you think that they will go ahead. So I'll start off with Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez.
No. I think Teofimo will continue to duck Devin Haney.
AJ and Fury.
Possibly. I could see Wilder knocking Fury out.
All right, the AJ Wilder. AJ, the winner of AJ Usyk versus the winner of AJ Fury Wilder. Let's say that. Can you see that fight happening?
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
Okay.
It might be the two that we think.
Crawford Spence.
No.
Who else? What other big fights out there? Canelo and Plant.
Yes.
Yeah. You think we'll see that?
I think they might come to some kind of arrangement. I don't know how they'll do it, whether they push the date back or whether, if it is a drug testing, Canelo will submit to it. Yeah, I like to think that the fight will go ahead. But if it doesn't, I would not be surprised either.
Yeah. Gervonta Davis against any of the top lightweights, any of those guys.
I guess it would depend on who Gervonta clearly doesn't seem interested in fighting Lomachenko. But by the same token, he hasn't expressed an interest in fighting Ryan Garcia. He's not expressed an interest so much in fighting Devin Haney. I think he has gone on the record as saying that he would fight Teofimo. So I guess it's down to that old thing, innit? Whoever they feel is more beatable, they're going to want to fight. That's the sad truth about it.
Yeah. Francisco has said here, Laurie, I should have one of my cousins in Mexico send you some clenbuterol beef. When you feel your power surge, maybe you'll change your mind. And the Alators weren't involved in cutting your feed. I don't know if that's true, man. I think you might have cut off your feed, man.
Yeah, man. It was very strange to see that as soon as I went in on Canelo, man. You know what I mean? Just got cut out. But you know what? Listen, man. With Canelo, man, he does tend to have that kind of aura around him, man. You know what I mean? There were questions in the Billy Joe Saunders fight over the negotiations, and here we are once again with the Caleb Plant. You know what I mean? So I just feel that we need to ask more questions.
Yeah,
it's incumbent upon the media, both old media and new media, and the fans and people like yourselves and me, Daryl, to ask these questions and to try and get to the truth.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't know for sure about this drug testing issue. But if there is an issue in the drug testing, we have every right to feel very concerned about it. I don't see why you can't just enroll and be done with it. I mean, I know the program is quite expensive, but when you're Canelo, money is not an object.
But we do, the WBC do, you are supposed to be enrolled on that clean boxing program when you are with the WBC, aren't you?
Yeah, but like I said to you before, when it comes
and let's also say that Canelo, to get busted in the first place, he would have had to have got tested.
Yeah, but then you saw what they did after when they sought to reduce the levels. So, you know what I mean? They sought to reduce the levels so that Canelo wouldn't fail future tests. That is documented. That is on the record. So how can you trust them? You know what I mean? This is what I'm saying, man. You can't. So that's why I also said earlier that I can well understand, if that was the case, why Caleb Plant put his foot down and said, no, we're not having a fight unless you're going to submit to the proper testing procedures.
I'm going to see it. We're going to have a look into that after the show and just find out about that. But yeah, a lot like you though, I still think that fight will happen, funnily enough.
Yeah, I think it will happen because
I still think that fight will happen. Yeah. They're saying it's dead now, but I just think it will. They'll find a way.
Yeah. And I think Bivol and one or two other names that have been put forward might be just leverage that they're putting up against this fight to urge Plant to come back to the negotiating table. And if you think about it, Plant is in quite a compromised situation because although he does have a belt, Canelo is the cash cow at that weight. He's the recognized champion, despite what Caleb Plant may think. And this might be his one and only real opportunity to get that fight with Canelo. and to earn that kind of life-changing money. So he
As
might,
O-
you know, hey, I might as well. I've made my protests, but he might think to himself, well, there's only so far this is going to go, and I'll take the fight. Will it amount to him, in effect, selling his O? Who knows?
as Obes was saying earlier, I hope Caleb Plant gets it. Do you know what I mean? In terms of what he's been through in his personal life, in terms of just him as a boxer, I like watching him. I'd like to see him get the fight, man. I like to see him get that life changing money. So hopefully that fight does happen between them two, and it's also undisputed. It's also for the undisputed, you know what I mean, championship of 168 pounds. So that's my number one choice. I want that fight to get made.
Yeah, yeah. Myself included. Myself included.
Well, listen, man, I'm going to wrap it up for today anyway, man. Very good show, as always. Do you know what I mean? I had to get a bit off my chest there earlier on. You guys in the comments, as always, represented. Do you know what I mean? Big up everybody in the chat. Don't forget to hit the like on the video on the way out. Share the video to your peoples. Like, get them to subscribe to the channel. I think we're at about 830 odd subscribers right now. Somebody asked me recently, they were like, they wanted to do a super chat, but they couldn't. But obviously, I think you need to be at 1,000 subs before you can get anything like that. But let's just try and get to the 1,000 mark anyway. And you know what I mean? Big up everybody for watching, and let's keep it going, man. Let's keep it going, and you know what I mean? More good shows to come. Lloyd, do you want to close it out?
I agree. Listen, man, you've got something here. Stay with it. Persevere. Like I said, boxing sometimes can be like that girlfriend that you love that keeps letting you down, but you always come back to them. So with that being said, like, share, subscribe, people. Let's get Darragh over these 1,000, man. I mean, he needs it. He deserves it. He wants it. He desires it. You know what I mean? Let's give it to him, man. And hopefully you get that and we crack on from here. Just want to say as well, all the people who are supporting the show, all your regulars, your Franciscos, your DS, your Harveys, and others out there, man. We really do appreciate what you're doing at the moment in terms of supporting this show and supporting the channel. Get the word out there, man. And we look forward to seeing you each week.
Sure. Big up everybody. We'll catch up with you guys next week, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys soon.